John Wall makes the Clippers dangerous. After having a weird season last year with Kawhi Leonard being out the entire season, it seems like this season the Clippers are making much more of a push to win an NBA championship. And in my opinion, I think John Wall will be a huge part of whether or not they're able to do so. But quickly, before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm Juicy Sports. I make opinionative NBA content. And if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. I also want to quickly mention that I recently started up an MMA channel, and if you guys are interested in that, the link will be in the description. But anyways, let's get into it. John Wall has had a very interesting career thus far. After being drafted with the #1 overall selection all the way back in the 2010 NBA draft, Wall was seen as a franchise guy. And for the most part, he definitely was a franchise player for Washington. He was making the All-Star team basically every single season, he was taking the Wizards to the playoffs basically every single year, and overall he was just an elite talent for the Wizards. But eventually, somewhere down the road, Wall started to deal with injuries. Now this was something that he somewhat dealt with earlier on in his career, but it really started during the 2017 season where he was dealing with major knee injuries. And it just seemingly got worse from there. During the 2018 season, he tore his Achilles, and during the 2019 offseason, he ruptured his Achilles by falling down the stairs in his home. And at that point, there was over a 2-year stretch where John Wall didn't play whatsoever. And eventually, he was traded to the Houston Rockets after just signing a Supermax contract extension with the Wizards a few seasons back. And with the Rockets, he actually played really well, averaging 20 points per game on 40% shooting from the field, 3.2 rebounds on 6.9 assists. But the issue was the Rockets decided to shut him down midway through the season as he only played 40 games that year. Then John Wall decided to sign with the Clippers after being bought out, and so far during the preseason he's looking pretty good, and that's kind of the point where we're at today. And if there's one thing clear about John Wall, it's when he's on the court he's extremely productive no matter where he's been. But of course the biggest issue with him is staying healthy, especially over the last few seasons where he's dealt with significant injuries. But now let's get into the question of the video. Why do I think the addition of John Wall makes the Clippers dangerous? Well, I think this for a couple different reasons, but the first reason that I wanted to touch upon is the fact that John Wall is a true point guard. And what I mean by this is in the past, when most people, including myself, thought the Clippers had a great opportunity to win a championship, the reason why they didn't, in my opinion at least, is they didn't necessarily have a true point guard that can calm everyone down in clutch situations, make everybody's lives easier out there by just facilitating to everybody and getting them open shots. But with the addition of John Wall, I think that all changes, because John has proven the ability to pass and play make extremely effectively throughout his whole career. Of course he's a great scorer as well, but the thing that makes him so dynamic in my opinion is the fact that he's such a good passer and playmaker. And I think having a guy like that, especially in clutch situations, is going to make everybody's lives a lot easier. Now of course they did have Reggie Jackson on the team when they were expected to win a championship, but in my opinion, although I do think he's a very good scorer, I just don't think he's the best passer and playmaker for that point guard position. Now he could pass and playmake, but he's nowhere near the level of a John Wall, for example. John Wall is just an elite passer and playmaker. Now other guys on the team as well, like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, have certainly improved their passing and playmaking abilities, but of course, once again, it's nowhere near the level of John Wall. So adding that true point guard to their roster, in my opinion, is going to be a huge upgrade for them. Now the next reason why I think the addition of John Wall makes the Clippers dangerous is how good of a scorer he is. Now no matter how good your team is, I don't think it's ever a bad thing to add a player who can score 20 plus on any given night like John Wall can. Now whether or not that means Wall actually averages 20 plus points with the Clippers is kind of irrelevant. The point that I'm trying to make is he has a capability of doing so. And with the Clippers, he would have the capability of going off in certain games or in certain possessions or even in certain stretches of games. And the benefit of that is it would take a lot of pressure off their main two guys in Kawhi Leonard and Paul George when maybe they're not playing all that well in certain games or certain stretches. Just having that extra guy that has a capability of also scoring at a high level, of course, would benefit everybody on the roster. Now, I don't necessarily expect this to happen, but one thing that could make a lot of sense for the Clippers would be having John John Wall come off the bench as a 6-man type player. And the benefit of that is just having a legitimate scoring threat in John Wall to run with your second unit, while also at the same time he can pass and play make very effectively for your other guys coming off the bench. Because in your starting lineup you would already have a bunch of great scorers like Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, etc. And in late game situations, of course you would bring in John Wall with that last unit. But at the same time, I definitely do think it would make more sense to start John Wall. The point that I'm trying to make is you have options if you're the Clippers. Now, another reason why I think the addition of John Wall makes the Clippers dangerous is the lack of pressure on him. Because in the past, John Wall has always been the main player on his team. When he was on the Wizards for all those years, he was always the franchise player. Yeah, he did have Bradley Beal on his team, but at the end of the day, John Wall was definitely the best player on the roster for all those years, at least in my opinion. And when he went to Houston when they didn't have James Harden, he was also probably the main guy there, but that was somewhat of an interesting situation. But the point that I'm trying to make is now with the Clippers, you would have at least 2 guys head and shoulders above him in Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, so the defense wouldn't necessarily focus on Wall as much. And I'm not necessarily saying that I'm expecting him to put up 20 plus points per game, but if he can put up around 14 to 18 points per game on efficient shooting numbers, I think that's huge for the Clippers. And we see this a lot. When players go to different situations and they don't have as much pressure on their shoulders, they tend to play a lot better. Of course, not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, we do see it. So this could potentially be one of those scenarios. He doesn't need to live up to that Supermax contract that he signed a few seasons back anymore, and he can just go to the Clippers and focus on playing as a team and winning. Now, the last reason why I think the addition of John Wall makes the Clippers dangerous is the pick and roll. John has always been known as one of the better players in the NBA at running the pick and roll offense, and I don't think that's necessarily changed at this stage in his career. And I think with the Clippers, we're going to see that be a huge factor for him. Whether he's running the pick and roll with the Clippers centers or even do a little bit of a hybrid with either Paul George or Kawhi Leonard, I think that could be deadly and extremely difficult for the rest of the NBA to defend. But now, what are my expectations for the Clippers this season? Well, in years past, I always saw the Clippers as legitimate championship contenders. Ever since they signed Kawhi Leonard and traded for Paul George, I thought they were one of the better teams in the NBA. And during the regular season, they proved me right, but once it came down to the playoffs, they struggled tremendously. Getting past the first round, then losing in the second round, even losing in the first round, they just were not living up to expectations whatsoever. And for me, I really lost faith in the Clippers 2 seasons back, where they once again didn't make it all that far in the playoffs. Now at this point, even though they did add John Wall, and I do really like that addition, I still don't necessarily consider them as one of the championship favorites in the NBA, of course. There's other teams that I think have a better chance at winning the championship this season, but one thing that I will say is I do consider the Clippers as very legitimate contenders. And if by the end of the season the Clippers do win a championship, I wouldn't necessarily be shocked about it. I do think the Clippers have a ton of talent. I think they have championship level talent on the roster, and I do think they could do it. The biggest question for them would be, are they actually going to do it? Because in years past, I also thought they had enough talent to win a championship. But I guess we'll see what happens by the end of the season. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think the addition of John Wall makes the Clippers dangerous, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these 2 videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.